Okay, we like to welcome on our next guest. He is the founder of Barwis Methods. He's got a couple nonprofits we'll let him jump into here in a second, but it's Mike Barwis. Coach, how we feeling, brother? How's things going?
No bad days, brother. Always trying to have a good one. If I wake up and God fills me with some air, I'm good to go. So honored to be here and spend time with you guys and knowing your family and have a lot of respect for your family. So it's an honor to have to be here. Thank you for having me.
Hey, we appreciate your time. We know how busy you are, so being able to spend not a couple, maybe an hour or so with us of your day is greatly appreciated.
It's my honor.
So, you obviously started your gym. You were at Michigan as the head strength coach, and you were at West Virginia before that. But after Michigan, you started your own company. You started your own gym, Barwis Methods.
Yep.
You mind talking about that a little bit and where you guys are located, how people get in touch and whatnot?
So if you go to barwis.com, you can find us. But we're about 37 companies now worldwide. We do high performance training and physical therapy, chiropractic, massage therapy, you name it. We much do it, and we also run neurological re-engineering for people with disabilities around the world. So we're in multiple countries, and for our programming, we train about 5,000 Olympic and professional athletes in 44 sports. So we do all the way down to youth, high school, you name it. And it's kind of cool because you'll see a Draymond Green training next to a young boy just trying to walk. So it's all intertwined. Pretty neat environment.
That's incredible. Yeah, and do you mind explaining what neurological re-engineering means?
Yeah, sure. So neurological re-engineering is a program that we devised and developed for people with neurological disabilities. We run the First Step Foundation, which is a charity for people with neurological disabilities, and also Athletic Angels for impoverished children, which I did for years in college and with pros. The neurological re-engineering program is a program that we have used to devise specialized, individualized programs to counteract neurological disabilities and help people reattain functional lifestyles. It really was spawned from helping Brock Mueller at Michigan, and while I was helping Brock, we also helped several other people with disabilities, and then obviously got to help your brother a little bit too when he got hurt. But doing some of those things really sparked the interest back in my heart in the medical side. And we ended up taking what we did in that environment and continue to extrapolate on it and grow it to facilitate the best neurological program in the world for people with disabilities. So people come from Africa, China, India, you name it, for us to help them learn how to walk again or overcome some neurological disability they might have. And I'm the worst one I got. I got a lot of good people who do a good job, and we're just fortunate to be a part of it.
Yeah, just remarkable stuff. I mean, from my perspective, my experience, and Coach, you've probably talked about this. I don't even know how many times, but with Brock Mueller, touching on that just for a hot second. So Brock and his family got in a serious car accident. Brock was not able to walk, and Coach Barwis invited him to come to Michigan and kind of developed a personal program for him to teach him how to walk. And I'll never forget from my experience. It was Michigan versus UConn. I think it was 2010. Brock led the team out on the field and walked and touched the banner, which was, I was crying. I can't imagine anybody in that stadium was not. But from your perspective, Coach, you developed that program. Obviously, you had other people that aided in it. But what's that sense that you feel when you do see him walking across the field? How do you interpret that whole situation?
Honestly, when it happened, it was unique because I had left West Virginia University and we were number one in the country going into the end of the season, and had a weird game against Pitt and lost. We were, going to play for national championship, and everything kind of changed that day. And I ended up leaving and going to Michigan. And when I went to Michigan, two of the first people I met there were Elliot Mueller, Brock's brother, who was in a sling, and he's a wonderful human being. And I had the luxury of working with him all the way to the Saints once we rehabbed him. and Brandon Graham. They were the first two people that I ran into, and Elliot had come in. He was in the sling, and I just asked him what happened. Didn't know each other. I ended up there at the last minute. He was an Ohio State fan, and changed his mind at the last minute and decided to go to Michigan. And the two of us at the last minute arrived in the same place as God would have it. And I think that's how God does things. And we ended up talking, and he told me his brother was in the hospital. And I actually had a meeting. I don't even know if he knows this, but I had a meeting with the athletic director that day that I skipped and went to the hospital with him because I just felt like, we had just got back to the Fiesta Bowl. Yeah, we beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. We crushed them. We had they were the number 2 team in the country, and they got knocked out, and we smashed them. And you were coming off a high. I literally flew back with my wife and my kids and flew right to Michigan. And when I walked in and was asking him what happened, he said, I said, what happened to your shoulder? And he said, look, we were coming home from church Christmas Eve and stopped at the stop sign, proceeded through the stop sign. A 90-year-old man ran the stop sign and hit us broadside. He killed my father. My girlfriend died in my arms. My brother was paralyzed, and I tore my shoulder out of the socket trying to rip the door off the hinges to get my brother out of the car. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, these games really don't mean very much.
Sure.
And at that moment, it kind of broke my heart. I'm not going to lie. It still chokes me up a little bit. So I apologize for that. But anyway, he asked me if I would go talk to his brother and see him. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. So actually, Greg Fry was the O-line coach at the time. And we shot over to, he just left Florida State. We shot over to the hospital in Salt Rock, and he's pretty broken. He was paralyzed. Obviously, they already told him he had less than 1% chance of ever walking again. And he was positive. That was the amazing thing for me. Like, Brock had a positive attitude. He was energetic. He was like, his arm was, pretty gnarled. His spine was broken, and he still was positive. And I started talking to him, and he asked me what I thought. And I said, look, my background's in physiology, and they don't know. Let's be honest. We're shooting percentages right now on what we know our rehab does to help people recover in your circumstance. That doesn't mean it's not doable. And if God, wills it and you're willing to work for it, anything's doable. So, just stay the course. And I think when I left, the therapist told him I was nuts, that, you gotta get used to being in the chair, and to the therapist's credit, that 99.999% of the time, that's what they're used to with what we're able to do with rehab currently in the hospital setting. And we ended up becoming friends. And when he'd come to practice, we'd kind of cart him around, as and he'd hang out. We'd all kind of harass him. And he went to a couple years of rehabilitation, and he wasn't getting better. He still couldn't walk. Insurance will only pay for so long. So his insurance was beginning to get cut off. And he and his mom had reached out to me and talked to me and said, look, insurance is up. And he was kind of down, because, hey, if I don't have any help, how do I get there? And he and I had a talk. He had lost his father. He didn't have a lot of support from that side, because, who do you go to? He talked to his mother, and I asked him, I said, what do you want to do? And he said, well, I want to walk. And I said, do you really want to walk, or you want to walk? You tell me. And he's like, he got kind of pissed. He's like, I want to walk. I'm working hard. And I said, well, then show up and we'll make it happen. And he said, look, you're already here 16, 17-hour days. You guys are coaching all the pro guys and the college guys. And I said, well, I'm not asking for excuses. I'll be here. You be here. And I think he thought I was kidding originally. And we weren't. So he showed up, and Parker Whiteman, who was a wonderful guy and was our
I remember him. Yeah.
Parker and myself started looking at programming, and I started writing things. And he said, I don't know how we're going to do this. And I said, I don't either, but I'm going to figure it out. So we'll start writing it down. And we devised a program for him. And he came in every day with the team in there and trained. And in 6 weeks, we had a twitch. And in 6 months, he led us out of the tunnel in front of 110,000 people and touched the banner. And I still remember he asked me, it was funny, he wanted me to walk with him. And I'm like, I'm not walking. Like, there's no chance. I'll meet you halfway. This is your moment, God's moment, your family's moment, and everybody who's ever been injured. It's their moment. I'm just the dummy that got to help. So as he walked across the field, I got 27 championship rings in different sports. I've done this my whole life, and they're all in a box. I actually gave them to my kids. We put them on a kitchen table, and my kids went around the room and picked them, and they put them in bags, and they throw them, and they do what they want to do. And rings are intangible objects. Championships are intangible objects. They don't mean anything really. It's what you did along the way that makes them special, right? It's the journey you take, the people who are alongside you, the lives you affect, the struggles you have, how hard you fought to achieve it that makes a ring valuable. And watching him walk across the field and touch the banner at that moment, I knew I wasn't doing, even though we were considered the top strength and conditioning program in the country, and I was at the pinnacle of my career in that, I wasn't doing all that I think God intended for me to do in every way that I could do it. And Brock was a catalyst for us to take that next step, and for me to realize that I didn't just want to coach in college or the pros anymore. I enjoy working with that. I still run the New York Mets. We oversee, the Mets. I run sports science for the Detroit Red Wings and oversee all of their medical and their program. That stuff's still there, and I love doing that. But I didn't also want to ignore the ability and the opportunity that God put in front of me to help other people who needed the help. And for me, that walk was a lot of things inside telling me that I had to do more, or I was going to die without doing what God intended me to do. And that's not okay with me.
Yeah, that was remarkable. And obviously, the First Step Foundation was created from that, and your term IRP, which is, evaluating each individual independently and understanding their circumstance, and not saying they're grouped into, paralyzed from the waist down and just saying these are your odds, but rather taking it person by person. And my question to that is, how do you evaluate somebody individually? What are the steps that you take to understand what this person exactly needs? And also having the faith to know, like I don't know if this is going to work, but this is what I think is the smartest, most educated path to take.
So we wrote what's called the ARS screen, and I actually use it with a lot of professional teams that I work with currently, because we do work with 9 pro teams and 5 leagues. And I devised it for neural patients. It's a screen that's related to identifying functional movement and capacities of movement in each of the different modalities of every joint, or actions of every joint, and understanding. And then that screen is then modified to look at specialized corrective methods that we have to try and change what we find in our screens. So we will fully screen each individual based on the design and protocol that we have that's specified for identifying each of their weaknesses and what we feel those related problems are. And then from that, we then design a specialized program that has nothing to do with anyone else's program. That is more or less designed for exactly what we feel that person needs to help them recover. It's not unlike what we do with athletes that's so unique. We ARS screen all of our professional Olympic athletes, and then we identify and design corrective exercises for them, and it allows us to track and understand injuries and how to return to play and everything else. So that screen has really become expansive, but the program design and the protocols that we utilize are really all solely proprietary, and you've been around it. It's a lot more aggressive than sitting in a hospital setting. You're going to work. It's not going to be easy. I mean, Brock, if you watch the Big Ten Network piece on Brock, it won an Emmy, and well deserved, because Brock's a wonderful human being, and I'm the tiniest part of the equation. He's amazing, and all the people in it are amazing, and but when you watch that, you see the emotion and the challenge, but you don't see the actual struggle of 4 hours a day getting ground into the ground. And when someone has a disability like this that acutely occurs in their life, it changes their life dramatically moving forward. So essentially, it doesn't just affect the individual who's affected, it affects everyone in their family. Just the risk of your brother being paralyzed when he was injured is catastrophic to everybody in your family, because you start thinking, you know, you want to help the person you love, and there's nothing you can do at that moment. So it doesn't just impact the person who is injured, it impacts the lives of everyone who surrounds them and loves them. And when you can be a part of them healing and getting better and growing, you don't get to just see the individual who was hurt heal. You get to see their families heal. You get to see them find God again. You get to see them find what He's willing to do in their lives. You get to see them uplifted and find a future that is different than what they thought they were condemned to. And from my standpoint, there's nothing in life that's more rewarding than watching people's lives change for the positive.
Yeah, I think of this and I hear it's like providing like your call, in this life, although it's helping people like athletes and what you've been doing, but this is providing hope, right? You're getting where people are almost not given a death sentence, but they're told that you'll never walk again, and you're able to come in and be like, hey, if you're willing, and I guess the person does have to be willing, right? Because like you said, it's a commitment. You can't do this halfway. They have to be fully committed. But with that attitude, you guys will find a way. So I think it's just an amazing story. And is your program ever changing, or are you kind of, are you adding new processes to it, or constantly moving or changing and adapting, or how does that work?
It's always growing and evolving. I mean, as science evolves, we also do a lot of research for the field of strength and conditioning and medicine, obviously because we run those dimensions in professional sports. And as we do research and test devices and applications and methodology, we continue to evolve our system to make it better every year. And getting to be a part of the lives of individuals and in some way helping is to me the most rewarding aspect of everything I do. I mean, seeing a young kid like Brandon Graham go from a single family home in an impoverished neighborhood to a wife and multiple children and $100 million, and they never start where he started ever again, is equally rewarding. You see the lives change for generations and generations, and being a part of individuals' lives who are struggling with neurological disabilities from countries around the world, and having so many individuals that were told they would never walk again, they would never move again, and they stand and walk with their children, they dance with their wives. I mean, we've had people who have walked down the aisle for weddings now that have been paralyzed. I was on Say Yes to the Dress for a young lady that walked, who was a physical therapist. We've had people like Brock walk. We've had people like Ashley, who fell off a horse and was in Louisiana, and she ended up walking. And Chris Norton, who walked on Good Morning America, and all these things that people look at and they call them miracles because they are miracles. Which I have nothing to do with being a miracle worker. God does that. I just get the blessing of being a part of a lot of wonderful people's lives and helping them. I really don't do much special. I just get to work with a lot of special people, and I'm thankful for that. And the science and the division of science that we have identified and designed our protocols around is changing and needs to be ever changing. If we can affect lives in a positive way, then we need to put in the effort to make them better. And that's always been my philosophy. I mean, I've always loved every athlete I ever trained like they're my own son or daughter. And I'm going to be that way until the day I die, because, I'm just thankful that somebody who doesn't deserve it like myself gets to be able to do it. And that's the important part.
I got a question for you. I mean, I know you have a very strong why. You can hear it within your voice, but where do you get the energy? And the day you got two foundations, you have this entire field that you are leading, and just what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Where, what time do you get up? What time do you go to bed? How do you do it?
So as anyone that knows that I've ever coached, I'm very intense. I'm very energetic. I don't drink coffee. I'm a water drinker. If I drank coffee, my heart would probably explode. From that standpoint, I'm a 4:30 in the morning every day guy, up and go. I go to bed at 12. I'm a 3-4 hour sleep guy. That's me.
Holy cow, dude.
Don't need much more. I've been blessed, and I get my energy from the people I get to work around, loving people and caring about them and wanting to help them. Now I'm probably the most intense. We were just talking earlier. Pat McAfee was doing the Barstool Sports thing, and I trained Pat at West Virginia for years, and he was talking about how intense and hardcore and aggressive I am. I'm that guy too. So I'm the rough guy that wears them down, but I do it out of love. And I do it because I generally care about the people I'm around and want to be impactful. And, it's funny. It doesn't just motivate me. It motivates others. Draymond Green's a great player, right? So Draymond Green's in here and he's training, and there's a young lady that we're working with who she was paralyzed. She was in a car accident. She, went through a windshield, and she had her first day of crawling. She was just starting to crawl, and now she's up walking, which is pretty awesome. But she had her first day of crawling, been paralyzed for several years, and he's training with me, and he keeps looking over. And Dre is one of the most misunderstood people you ever meet. Classy, smart, hardworking, disciplined, caring, everything you want. He's tough, he's intense, and he gets under people's skin. That's his philosophy, So watching him on the court and seeing him in here are two different things. He's watching this young lady crawl, and halfway through, he's like, "Hey, man, I got to stop." And I said, "Why?" He's like, "Is there anything I can do to help her?" I said, "Hey, look, nothing but air an opportunity. Take your shot." And watching Draymond go over and get on his hands and knees and crawl next to a young lady for 40 minutes and motivate her, and watch him fall on the ground and her to lay her head on his chest, and Draymond coming back and saying, "Look, I'm more motivated to play the game of basketball than I've ever been." Yeah. Because I look at that young lady and what she's going through and the fight she's taken, and I feel like the moments I've got to be a part of her life, when I'm out on that floor, I've got to show people that I'm going to use what I have as a gift. Yeah. And seeing, Jarvis Landry, when he left, one of the things he said, he's like, "What happens in here with these people is incredible. And it makes me, coming off my recovery from hip surgery this year, I don't want to feel sorry for myself. I actually want to be someone who they can look to and shine and look up to and say, hey, that guy does what I do. And I know if he can do it, I can do it." And he's like, seeing the lives of, you would think that the athletes' lives are being impacted less than the people with disabilities. I would say it's the contrary. Yeah. The athletes look up to the people with disabilities more than the people with disabilities look up to them. Now, the people with disabilities are like, "Hey, these are pro bowlers, best players in the world. We train the best athletes in the world. We train everything that walks or talks and some that don't, and sooner or later they will." That's our goal, and that's the goal, is to have a relationship in our facilities that everyone feeds on everyone else. Everyone thrives on humanity and wants to be a better person while they're here, while being a better athlete or regaining their function. That's what life's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's an amazing facility and center for perspective, right? When you have these athletes who, again, all other people or most people will look up to them and say they have the best life, they have the best living, blah, 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 blah. And only to realize that, those things don't really add up. The people that have made it, they'll tell you, money and fame doesn't really provide happiness. They go to one of your facilities and are training with you alongside people who, again, have now faced the real deal challenge of life, of like living and dying, or, succeeding or not, and talk about just a reality check. So I think I've never heard of athletes doing that unless there's some type of volunteer thing, but to actually be training next to these individuals, how motivating for, again, both people. So amazing idea, and it's not shocking that you hear the comments that you've mentioned.
Yeah, it is really a cool environment, and we're just a big family. That's all we are. Anyone I've ever worked with, I love like they're my own family, and they are. And we try to do the best we can to help as many people before God takes us. That's it.
I have so many flashbacks coming through my mind of being in the weight room with you. But Noah, you talk, your show on Amazon Prime, American Muscle. A lot of the things that you're describing are eminent in that show, and you do see, in the first episode alone, you have like Richard Sherman, you talk about Brandon Graham, and then you just have like 10-year-old girls training next to all these professional athletes, and they're like, what is going on right now? But I do want to touch on something. Do you know the movie Heavyweights and Tony Perkis?
No, I don't.
No, it's Ben Stiller. Your cover of you with like the holding the globe just totally reminded me of something Tony Perkis would do.
Right? That thing's comical. When they did that, I'm like, you want me to do what? Hold this globe up? I'm like, I can probably hold up anything. I'm pretty darn strong, but I don't know. I don't know if me holding the world is the wisest thing. So I think Discovery was into that. I thought it was kind of goofy, but yeah, no, pretty funny, pretty funny.
That was great. Yeah, and the follow up to that is, what were the behind the scenes actually like working on that show? Was it, such a unique experience that you would want to do something like that again, or was it something that you're like, I'm more so prefer just the one-on-one actual relationships?
It's a really good question. For me, I get a lot of calls for TV shows and other things, and have turned down a lot of them. It's tough for me if something divides me from my task, right? And I love the show. I had a lot of fun on it. I think they portray things sometimes that aren't as realistic as they should be, but that's TV, right? I mean, they do their thing. For me, it's always been about helping people. And if the show gave me the opportunity to create a platform to help more people and help people with disabilities, then I was all for it. At some point, though, there is a lot of responsibilities and demands that are consistent with a TV show, and to me, that sometimes pulls us away from the opportunity to spend more time with the people that you're trying to help and your loved ones. So would I do it again? Probably not. Was it a cool experience? Absolutely. It was a lot of fun. It was neat. It was a little difficult. I'm really not the show guy, so I'm intense. I love people. I'm hard. Going into an airport and trying to get on an airplane with 20 people trying to get your pictures is really not my idea of fun. I love people. I love to say hi to people, but that was kind of crazy for a little while. And for me, I don't need to be known. This is God's world. I'm just a part of it, and everything that I do good has been Him. Everything I do bad's been me. So if I get the opportunity to be a part of lives and impact them in a positive way and create memorable portions in their lives, then I'm happy. I'm happy. I don't need much more than that, and I'm blessed to be where I am and have a wonderful family and been a part of a lot of great people's lives.
That's a good answer. Good question, good answer. We'll leave it at that. And just so everybody knows, on Amazon Prime, American Muscle, people such as Ndamukong Suh, Tyree Matthew, Richard Sherman. So we're talking the big dogs. But then the next question kind of gets into comparing, your life in college and training with different athletes and having to run your own program. In terms of strength and conditioning, how would you compare that experience either at West Virginia or at Michigan to now, what you're doing with all your gyms and your nonprofits and really having that control the majority of your time?
I think every place you go has a unique. I try to find the positive. People always say think about living a purpose-driven life, right? And for me, a purpose-driven life is finding purpose in the life you're living, not trying to find another life. And when I was at West Virginia, it's a very unique environment. I love the people there. I love the state. I love everything about it. It will always be a home to me. And we were able to create an environment of family, intensity, toughness, and hard work that really allowed us to catapult and excel, and we did well. And Michigan, I equally love going there, and it's a very different environment, but just wonderful people again, and a great opportunity. And we're able to create the same environment for our guys there. And, to me, taking the world's premier level of training and being able to create the intensity, yet still have a family environment has always been important to me because I love the guys. The only reason I do the job is because I love the people I work with. That's it. But that doesn't mean I'm always easy on them. That's, if you love someone, you're going to push them and you're going to be intense and you're going to take them where they need to go. And doing that at West Virginia and Michigan was a blast. And then taking that same level of the most elite performance training in the world and neurological training and all the other aspects, and then intertwining it into a business wasn't difficult because it's what I do and what I've always done. And knowing how to create that environment involves finding people who are good people who want to create that environment, and I've been able to be blessed enough to surround myself with those people. As I said, I'm the worst one I got. They're all pretty good. I'm just a mediocre guy, but that environment being replicated is key to success in anything you do, right? Find people who really care, who want to be impactful, who have a passion for what they're trying to accomplish, and have the best knowledge in the world for what they want to achieve in life, and you're going to do great. Business is no different. I think a lot of times people think that if I do nothing, something will happen. I believe that God will will you to accomplish your dreams if you're willing to work for him. He doesn't want you to sit back and let things happen. So if you're going to earn it, earn it. Go get it. Give him the ability to will the talents and attributes that you have and your passions to achieve the goals and dreams that you aspire to achieve. And if you do that and you push yourself, then he opens the doors and sends you in the right direction. And, it's not any difference in business, but it's got to be about being honest, working hard, caring, and doing the right things for the right reasons. And if you do, you're going to be successful in anything you do. And that's, I feel like that's how we've run our businesses, and we've grown incredibly fast and done incredibly well. And that's how we ran the colleges. And it's about people. If it's about people, we'll do well. I always say, if the people we work with today mean more to us than we do to ourselves, we'll be good at our jobs. Simple. If that's our philosophy every day, we'll be great at what we do.
Coach, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
When do you remember, like at what age did you start thinking this way? Or when did it kind of hit you? Do you remember a moment, or have you always just been wired this way?
So my family's intense. They're blue collar, hardworking, intense people. My brothers are that way. My father's that way. My mother's that way. My grandmother's that way. My grandfather's that way. I mean, that's what I've been exposed to my entire life. My grandmother's 90 some years old, and she's more intense than most people are 20. So, I mean, still, wants to shovel her driveway, wants to till her garden, she's a bull. And, that's what I've been exposed to my whole life. And there's certain key moments that I can identify where I learned things. I was working on post hole digging with my grandfather one time, and he passed a number of years back, but we worked all day. We were putting the tools away. I hung them up in the barn, and I thought I was doing something good. I was always trying to impress him, and you could never be tough enough for him. Right? Like, he just had that mentality of, yeah, okay, you did a good job. Go ahead and shut up and eat your dinner. It wasn't. So we dug all day. I had a shovel. I hung it up on the wall in the barn, and my grandma talk about this. And I thought I did something great. I walked out. I said, Pop, I finished up. I cleaned everything up. I hung up the shovel. And he kind of grabbed me by my ear and yanked me back into the barn. And he pointed to the shovel and he said, Son, what's wrong with this picture? And I said, I don't know, Pop. I hung up the shovel, same place. And he said, was there dirt on the shovel when you got it out? And I said, no, sir. He said, if shovels work better with dirt on them, they make them that way. Clean the shovel, put it back in the damn barn the right way, and wipe it off. Wow. And I thought, I just worked 12 hours out here. And for a moment, I thought the old man is crazy, And I cleaned the shovel, sprayed it off. I hung it back up. And when I was cleaning it off, I sat there for a couple moments and thought, he's right. It's the little things in life that make the big things right. And if I don't prepare to do the little things every minute of every day, will I achieve the big things that I intend to? Probably not. So he taught me a lesson that was really valuable. And it's funny, there's a shovel hanging on my wall, actually.
Yeah, really nice.
Watch. See the shovel over there? Let me see, right there in the corner.
Yeah.
So there's a shovel hanging on my wall that Discovery gave me during the TV show, and it's to remind me of that moment, and on it there's a little plaque that says, bear the burden, carry the load, make it happen. And that was my father. I was probably 12, and I asked him one time, I said, Pop, look, I'd like an allowance. A lot of the kids around here get allowances, and we're in the Philadelphia area. And he looked at me, he smiled, and he said, well, you can get a job. and I said, I'm 12. Who's going to hire me? And he said, there's a lawnmower in there. You can pay for the gas. You can cut people's yards. You can shovel driveways in the winter. You can work as a busboy at a restaurant. If you want something, you better go earn it. And I thought to myself, well, this doesn't sound like the same philosophy everybody else's parents have. So I said, well, Dad, I understand that, but I want to go to the movies and I like the bar. some money then, I'll pay you back. And he said, son, let me tell you something. Yours is to not to ask questions. Yours is to bear the burdens of life, bear the burden, carry the load that's placed on your back, and to make it happen. So you need to learn to bear the burden, carry the load, and make it happen. I wrote that down. I put it in the front of my Bible, and I live by it. And those two things are key moments. But I've had a lot of those moments from a lot of special people who have taught me that I need to be a good man. I need to do the right thing for the right reason. I need to understand how to help people. And I need to sacrifice of myself if I want to be good at anything or help anybody. I think a lot of times leaders think that you tell people and you order them and they follow you. You don't deserve respect. You earn respect. And you earn respect by being a servant, not by just being a leader. The greatest leaders in the world know how to serve. If you can't humble yourself to serve someone else, you can't lead me. And I think when we all understand that, there's different religions, but no matter what, I'm a Christian and I believe in Christ, and people are Muslims and obviously follow Allah, and Jews follow Yahweh, and they all have their different direction. But if you find God, no matter where you are, God has served us all. So my question is, if you believe in something and you believe that you've been served by them, how can you, as a man or a woman, not humble yourself to serve someone else? And my philosophy has always been, I'm going to be hard. I'm going to be tough. I'm going to go as hard as I possibly can every day. I'm going to give everything I have while I'm here, so that I know when I die, I can look my maker in the eye and say, I'm okay with death today, because today I can die your champion. And if that happens for me, then I'm okay. And that's all I want.
That's a perspective. Jeez. such a bright mind and perspective on life, and it really, you're dissecting it to its core, to making life simple and just trying to get others around you better each and every day, and that's all we can do. It's up to God to choose if it was enough or not. But getting back, coach, into actual training and different athletes that you've worked with, such an array of people, either Olympic, high school, college, youths. Do you have one or two athletes where you're just constantly in awe about not only their work ethic, but just what they've been able to accomplish, and just every time you see them in action, you're like, gosh, that person is just a little bit higher than the norm?
I've had the blessing of having a lot of them. I've worked with thousands of Olympic and professional athletes, and tons of all pros and pro bowlers, and all stars in baseball, and guys that have won Cy Youngs, and guys that have won Silver Sluggers, and Golden Gloves, you name it. The best of their sport, MVPs in the NBA, and you see the best of the best. What you find is they have talent that God gave them, and they earn what they want. They go to work, they commit to it, they give 110% of themselves, they burn the bridge behind them so there's no place for retreat. They don't give the option to have a day off. They don't give the option to feel sorry for themselves. They stick their face in the ground, and they grind until they get what they want. And the pinnacle of sport for me is nothing but a reflection of the sacrifice to attain and utilize the gifts they were given at the highest level they possibly can. And I think when you find that in yourself, you achieve that. And for me, being able to be a part of their lives is a blessing. And when they do struggle, being the person to pull them on track and push them and guide them and direct them is something I relish in, and really am thankful I get the opportunity to do. Because it's not easy to be motivated like that every day. It's not easy to sacrifice that much. It's not easy to struggle that hard. And I mean, you see a guy like we were talking about earlier, Brandon Graham, who's, changed his life dramatically. I mean, he's, have multiple contracts in the NFL. His wife and his kids are in great situations, and he came from a struggling situation, self-perpetuating poverty that probably would have continued for generations had God not given him the gift and him not be willing to attain it. Now he's changed that. No one ever starts at the same point. And talked about the honey badger, same guy. He's changed that. No one ever starts at the same point. And I've seen that countless times. Draymond Green's changed that. No one ever starts the same point. Jarvis Landry's changed that. No one ever starts the same point. The impact not only they have on the game, but the impact they have on life itself for transitioning a hardship and a struggle and a self-perpetuating poverty type situation that doesn't allow them to have the same opportunities that others might have. When they change that for generations to come.
Yeah.
And to me, that's watching a game. That's what I like watching. People ask me teams. I watch players. I watch people that I know they've changed the lives of their families, and I can't wait to help them change them more. And that's the coolest part. I love them all, and I'll stand by them, and I'll be there for them, from the guy that was the walk-on kicker who never played to the guy who won 4 Pro Bowls and Pat McAfee. I love them all. They're all special to me. They're not any different. They're human beings that deserve my effort and deserve my impact in their life if I can be positive in some way.
Awesome. Yeah. And one story I want to touch on before, because I want to get to the Mets and Red Wings, but I don't know if you remember Christian Mateus. He was my roommate freshman year.
Yep.
Christian he's an offensive tackle. He was 6'7", about 340 pounds as when we got on campus. So, I went to Michigan to play, didn't end up playing, but we were roommates. So imagine this 6'7" guy trying to sleep on a little twin bed in West Quad in Ann Arbor. But Christian lost 40 pounds. I'll never forget in like 6 weeks just working with coach. And I was just like mind boggled because I'm literally seeing this transformation in such a short period of time. And he just became an absolute monster. And it just speaks volumes to like when Coach Barwis says you're going to go to work, like you're going to work. And it was just, that was crazy. So,
he's
all right.
He's a great kid. That's a great story. And, it's funny. You see guys like that. James Carpenter, who plays still in the NFL, one of the premier offensive linemen, was on the Seattle Seahawks, and he had been injured. We get a lot of elite teams that send us players from different leagues for us to fix. That they had surgeries and the regular PT won't work, so we take them in and run programs to redevise and help them be effective again as athletes. And our rehab is very well known around the world. And this kid James Carpenter was first round draft pick out of Alabama, big time player. I love him like he's my own son. He's a big son. He's about 6'6", 350, 340. and he's wonderful. He still trains with us now. But back when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, he was like one of their premier draft picks, and he ended up tearing his knee up really bad, tore his MCL, his LCL, his ACL, had fractures. His knee was destroyed, and they did a surgery. It didn't work. He had to have another surgery by a gentleman named David Alchek in New York City, who did an amazing job, who's a good friend of mine. He works with the Mets with me. And after the surgery, David told him, he's like, look, if you're going to go somewhere, you should go see Mike Barwis in Michigan. This is not a regular rehab. And if you really plan to play, you should go do this. And he didn't know me. I didn't know him. And he thought, I'm not going there. It's cold. This guy's crazy. I'm going somewhere else. So he went back to his team and did his rehab there, and it wasn't working. And he was still walking with a limp, and he was 5 weeks to the season. And his agent told him, look, I think I should send you to this guy in Mike Barwis in Detroit. And he's like, wait a minute, that's what the surgeon told me when I came out of surgery. So they called me and said, will you help him? So I took this guy for, 3 hours a day. And they flew him down. And in 5 weeks, he started the season, could barely walk without a limp. 5 weeks started the season, played every single game, won the Super Bowls, never missed a game. Like, he just plays every game. He's an icon now. He trains with us every year. And they told him he's never going to play again. Like, you're not going to play football. Like, your knee's just screwed. And seeing that change, but he went from 367 pounds to 325 pounds.
Yep.
And, we re-engineered his program. We reestablished the stabilization in his knee and his hips. And And to this day, now he's got, you know, 2 little ones. He's married. He plays for Atlanta now, and I get to see him 10 years later, still playing the game, and he's made, you know, tens of millions of dollars, and his family's in a great situation. And it was another one of the impossibles, right? You know, this is impossible. Nothing's impossible. You just got to do the work and let God will it. That's it.
Coach, with that, you know, when it comes to a really common probably rehabilitation or injury you see is that those knee injuries, the gruesome knee injuries are ones where, you know, before, you know, not too many years ago, we were looking at least like a year, right? Type of recovery, if not more. And now we've started to see that accelerate. I remember seeing, you know, guys start to go faster. What is, in your time frame, what's the fastest, I guess, I know that's not like a wreck, or, you know, you're not really truly going for that. You're trying to get them back and be the best, but what's the fastest you've seen someone come back from like a knee injury?
You know, I mean, I've seen people make some really fast strides. I mean, I've seen people literally be competing in 3 to 4 months with significant knee injuries, and that's great. I mean, Robbie Lawler, the world champion fighter, who I also work with and train, is a wonderful human being, and he had injured his knee prior to coming to us, and he came here for rehab and then trained with us. And watching him metamorphosize in 3.5 months to like just unbelievably functional as we did his rehab. He's a workhorse. He's a tough guy. He's a wonderful person. He's very committed and he's very focused. And he was able to change his situation incredibly fast and go back and compete and fight at a high level and have your knee wrenched on and kicked and bent. That's pretty impressive. So I've seen a lot of guys now that we've been able to do quick. You still want the time, right? Because the ligament itself has to heal and you want that graft to scar down and heal. But if you can get it strong enough and you can get it stable so that there's less stress on it, you can reduce that risk significantly. We're definitely able to do things a lot faster than we used to be able to.
Interesting. Yeah. And just that's a good transition. You know, you've mentioned so many different athletes in different sports. You know, obviously you're with the Mets and you're always also with the Red Wings, which is a big get for us, obviously being from Metro Detroit. But how do you develop like sports specific exercises or plans?
You know, so one of my specializations is you know, biomechanical movement and physiology and identifying the needs of the athlete and the specificity of the needs of training. A lot of times people say it's sports specific. I kind of go a little deeper than that. It's cellular specific, right? So what we provide a given stimulus, right, to a cell, and that cell adapts to the stimulus it's provided, and that elicits a desired result. So we try to provide the stimulus to the cell necessary to evolve the result that we want for that athletic environment. So when we design our engineering and our training programs, it's not just about exercise. I think a lot of people get on YouTube and they're like, well, this is a cool exercise and I saw that guy do it. The question is why, how, where does it fit? How do you program it? How do you fit it into your phase? You know, exactly what result is it causing? Because if you give someone the wrong stimulus, you can design the wrong elicited result. So the reality is looking for what you want as an end goal and then writing backwards based on the stimulus you need to provide to get there. You get in your car, you put in a GPS location and you follow it, right? You know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going with training and you're assigning arbitrary movements and arbitrary exercises, you end up with a destination you never even planned on obtaining. So the reality is looking at what type of stimulus you need to provide to adapt the given and desired results. That's why we actually screen all our people and find out what are the weaknesses, what are the patterns, what things do they need, how do they play their game, how do we design the protocols to allow them to have the systemic adaptation to meet those necessary needs and become the individual they aspire to be. So there's a lot of science that goes into that design and tracking, and it really comes down to making sure that the actual stimuluses that are provided elicit the results we desire so that we can adapt to them. Because there's a law of medicine, right? The body, Wolff's law, the body conforms and adapts to the intensities and in the directions it's habitually subjected. What does that mean? It means what you do is what you become. If I take a bar and put it on my back for a squat, the intensity is the weight. The body will conform and adapt to that intensity, 500 pounds, going through my spinal column into my feet. I'm going to deposit calcium in my bones. I'm going to strengthen my tendons and my cross bridges. I'm going to devise adaptation to the stimulus I was provided. What that really means is what you do, you become in anything in life. when you're studying, when you're working, when you're in business, what you do is what you become. So I've got to provide you things to do every day that help you become what you really want to be. And that comes down to making sure the cells get the right stimulus. And we test at our groups. We have a biometric group. You met Antoinette earlier. Antoinette actually runs our recovery room, and our guys come in, they get on devices that'll text their biometrics. I'll know what their DC potential is that morning, how their hormones are reacting. I'll know what their heart rate variability is. I can understand all of the different factors. Are they hydrated? What are the factors that are occurring in their body? And how do I devise, even for that specific day, exactly what I want to do with them? So it's very scientific and very designed. You can pick up a video from YouTube and do some cool drills. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to end up where you want to be.
Love it. All right, Coach. Well, we got one more question I want to dive into and let you shed a light on your nonprofits. Athletic Angels Foundation, First Step Foundation. So you've had so much success since being at West Virginia when you started Athletic Angels. With all that success now at West Virginia and Michigan, and now all the athletes that you're training across the world, especially with your ISR treatment, how have you seen that benefit and enable, expansion into your non-for-profits?
It's been great, actually. We host golf events in Michigan, and we do stuff in Florida, and we do stuff all over for fundraisers. And we've been able to give, $500,000 to people with disabilities and help them recover and come back and invest in youth sports teams and helping kids have an environment of high performance and be in an environment where they can be lifted, and help impoverished children around the communities to try and lift them as well. And for me, God has given us a platform and allowed us to achieve many things again that I don't deserve. And the more those things impact other people's lives, the better. And so right now, actually, we're doing an event right now we usually do a golf outing in Michigan this time.
I know, I'm participating this year.
Yes.
But it's virtual. It's a little easier for me.
Yeah, you can play, right?
Yeah, playing on Saturday.
Yeah, we had to do it in virtual because of the COVID situation. But, our goals and our aspirations are to help raise the funds necessary to impact lives in a positive way, not just to be, someone who views it. I don't want to be a watcher. I want to be a person who takes part in things and actually has an impact. And the blessing has been the wonderful people who've come alongside us over the years, and really they want to have an impact and have facilitated the ability to help people grow in life. And I'm very, very thankful for those people. They do a lot more than I do, and I'm grateful for their contribution to the lives around them.
Incredible. Well, Coach, can't thank you enough for hopping on. I know you said you get invited to do a lot of things, so for you to take the time and hopping on in the middle of the day for us is incredibly appreciated.
It's my family's family, man, and you always be family. So.
Appreciate that.
Coach, thank you for your time. Again, amazing to share, and so I really do appreciate it.
It's my honor, brother. If you need anything, you let us know. Be safe and God bless.
Thanks. You too. Have a great day, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
The sun in your eyes.